Felicity here from a very cold, miserable, gloomy day on the southern coast of the UK, as usual, and not a bit of sun in sight for the next 2 weeks. What would us British people talk about if we didn't talk about the weather? Sewing. Let's get on to sewing. So here I am in my 9th dress that I've made from McCalls 7969. I've been trying to get this pattern to rest, put it to rest for months now, and every time I think I'm going to do that, move on to something else, I get this inspiration for it. So this is my latest inspiration, and as you can see, I have smocked. I have smocked around here, and just a little bit of machine embroidery around here. Now, I am not a smocker. This is my interpretation of smocking, which I do very quickly on my sewing machine. And no, it isn't an embroidery machine, it is a computerized machine with a few embroidery stitches on it. So don't worry if you fancy doing this but you don't have many stitches on your machine. Do it in zigzag, do it in anything. You can't see it, all you can see is it's smocked. No one's going to look that close. Well, I don't know, they shouldn't, but no one's going to look up that close to it. So let me help you and show you my method and everything you need to do a bit of simple smocking on your dresses. It doesn't have to be this pattern. I just happen to be obsessed by this pattern. I think it's mainly to do with the sleeves because they are so gorgeous, but don't forget to do these sleeves that you do need almost 2 meters of fabric. I know it's incredible, but that's how much you need. The fabric you need for this cannot be thick. For me, because I'm quite a big busty girl, and I'm quite a big girl, I'm short but I'm busty, I need something that's just going to fall down. I don't need anything clinging to my stomach, and I also don't need something sticking out. It has to be a fabric which is quite thin, because you've got to put a load of gathering in this, almost 4 times the length that you want your gathering to finish at. Okay, so maybe a viscose or an Indian cotton or a cotton lawn, anything like that is fine. But if you use a thicker cotton, you cannot gather it up tight enough. Well, you can gather it up tight enough, but what you can't do is put the machine sewing over the top of it. It doesn't like it. It's too bulky. All right, so get yourself something floppy, something that falls nicely, and something that will gather up really tight but not be too bulky. All right, so I'm going to show you now how to adapt a pattern so that you can do this. Okay. So the first thing I want to share with you is what you will need to do this dress. So the first thing you need, let's say, is some thread. Now the thread that you use must disappear into the background. This isn't for the embroidery, it's for the gathering, and the gathering thread has to disappear in the background, so we don't want to see it. So don't make a feature of this gathering. So I'm going to use white. I've chosen to use this, not my normal pattern of fabric. However, I was trying to find something which had got lines on it or squares on it that was heavy and floppy, and this one I think is a viscose. It could be a polyester, but I don't think so. I think it's a viscose. But anyway, something nice and floppy. So I've chosen to use white because I think I can get most of the gathering on the white lines on here. And then you need something which is going to show up for the embroidery. All right, so choose something that is going to make an impact. All right, don't put something on it that no one's going to see, because it's quite fine, the embroidery on here. So that's that. I'm going to use those two. This is also very good. Now this is called Solvy. I have made a video which has been super popular on my YouTube channel, which was also on Simple Machine Smocking. On there I didn't use this, but this is invaluable. I will show you how to use it, and what this does, it gives you a smooth underneath part of your gathering, because if you can imagine, it's so bumpy for the sewing machine with all that gathering on, but you lay this underneath, you machine over the top of it, and then you put it in the wash and it all washes off. All right, so it's fantastic. Also, please remember to subscribe to my channel. I have so much to share with you. Please don't miss anything. I will be recording once a week in future. And if you didn't know, I am a sewing teacher from Sussex in the UK. And obviously I haven't been teaching over the last, how long is it? 16, 17 months. But I do start my sewing classes at the end of this month, which is July. July the 26th, I'm starting my sewing classes back, albeit in a different way to what it was before. But I'm trying to say I won't have so much time to concentrate, but I'm going to be there every week sharing things with you. So please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell if you want notifications of when I'm next on. All right, let's get cracking. If you are going to do 7969 and you have this pattern at home, then this is what you need to do with this one. And obviously there are so many dresses like this around with, you know, with a seam here and gathered. You can use anything that you have. So I'm just going to show you how to do the quick machine smocking. Right, so, but if you have this pattern, you will find you have a centre front line down here. Fold that in and put that on the fold. Okay, so we want to put that on the fold, pin it on, cut it out. But the other thing you need to do is to, whereas you've got a curve underneath this, it curves. All right, I would do away with that curve to do this. All right, so put it on, okay, and then straighten it up. It will make the back slightly longer, but remember when you cut out the back to cut the back longer as well. Okay, so square that up and cut along there. I actually need to use this one because I've done a full bust adjustment on mine. This is my daughter's one, which is much smaller, but that's what you need to do. Okay, line it up. It will make the side seam longer. That's fine. I've now taken off, or rather I've now lined up the front seam to make it straight. I've also extended the side seam for the back so that they match. Okay, so those two match. Right, the next thing you need to do is to take off 2 inches from the bottom of the bodice front. So lob off 2 inches. Two inches off. So that will make it 2 inches now shorter than the back. Okay, I'm sure you can see that. 2 inches now shorter than the back. You now need to cut 4 times the width of the bodice at the front. All right, 4 times a 3.5 strip, 4 times the width of the bodice at the front. Okay, I'm now going to set up my machine to do some smocking. I've now set up to do the gathering of this long strip. I do my gathering on a number 3 on most things, and I know that a lot of people tell you to do it on number 4 or even number 5, but personally I find it makes it too loose, the gather. You know, it just moves about too much, so I prefer to do it on a number 3. But whatever you're comfortable with, but you know, the longer the stitch you use, the bulkier the gathering's going to be. All right, yeah, it's a fact. Right, so start in about 1.5 inches, 2 inches from the end of the strip, and then you just got to focus on, make sure you've got enough thread in your bobbin and also on top, because the last thing you want to do is to run out halfway along. So I'm just going to whiz along here. Now I'm using lines on this, I know. I decided to use lines because for demonstrating it's easier. If you aren't going to use stripes or checks or something like that, no worries, you know, just get your starting point like I am here. And then I'll show you when we get to the next line. To be about 1/2 inches apart, or maybe slightly less. I mean, there is no exact place, but as long as you keep them straight, because if you don't keep them straight, when you go to do the embroidery on it, your embroidery is going to be wonky too, and that's not a good look. So you see, just keep your eye on the previous line that you did. In my case, because I've got these lines on here, and by the way, I did cut this strip the length rather than the width of the fabric, because I could do that. I had enough material to do that. In any case, I felt that the lines would be beneficial to me. No back stitching at the beginning or the end, and leave the fair old bit. I'm going to continue now to do all the lines I need. I will probably need 5 or 6. I'll let you know when I've finished. Right, so I've now finished that. I actually did 6 lines altogether through here. Okay, 6 lines of gathering right the way along. The 6 lines, the actual 6 or 5 lines you do must measure 2 inches with your seam allowance each side of the lines, all right, because you need that seam allowance to add it onto here and seam allowance to here. So 2 inches. Right, now the reason that I start in 2 inches from the beginning and the end is because if you took them right to the end of here, you have the chance of getting pulling and then pulling one which is underneath. So I prefer to keep them well away because it is disaster if you pull one by accident. So get hold of 3 threads. Doesn't matter if it's the back or the front, but just get hold of 3 threads on top and pull. Okay, be careful what you're doing. You don't want it snapping, and pull them because, you know, this isn't the only line of stitching you have to do on my method. Okay, so pull to about halfway. This fabric is fraying a lot, but we'll just have to cope with it. Keep on pulling. So when you think you've got it about halfway, and then you can get hold of the other 3 or 2, however many you've done. You may have done 5 or you may have done 6. Seem to have lost a thread somewhere along the line. Okay, it looks like one of them's pulled out. I'll be back in a minute. Right, so that was annoying. It didn't snap. I used Gutermann thread underneath and on top, and for the first time, I don't know why, it decided to shred. So just in case it happened again, I just got on with it really. So you need to do it like this, okay, so it's nice and even. This isn't the end of your machining on this, by the way. You've only just started, so make sure that you pull it, and make sure you put it so it's nice and even, all right, the same length as your bodice front here. All right, now we've got to do another row of stitching over this to stabilize it. Okay, so every row that you've done, that you've machined the gathering, now go over the top of it. All right, pulling it out, making sure that your seam allowance isn't all squashed up. You get a hold of it and you pull it to the side. All right, push it up slightly as you're doing it. That's right. Now do that with every row, and when you get to the end, you can backstitch on this one. Okay, push it up slightly so that it doesn't stretch over the top of the stitching that you've already done. This is why you have to have a really good matching thread, because if you don't, you're going to see that stitching and you don't want to see this stitching. All right, so do every row, 5 or 6 rows. Won't take you long because it's all gathered up now. 5 or 6 rows, another row of stitching on top, and make sure your seam allowance isn't tucked up. Pull it out as you go along. Okay, I'm going to finish this, all the rows, and I'll be back. So here you are. I finished this, ready to do the embroidery over it. Don't be tempted to not do that second part where you stabilise it, because it's very important. Because if you try and embroider over it as it is when you've gathered it, you'll be pushing everything away when you're doing the embroidery stitches, and it won't be very even. So like this, super even, and it looks like you've spent hours and hours on it, doesn't it? Which of course you have. But right, I'm now going to set up my sewing machine with the yellow thread ready to do the embroidery. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was cut it off to the right length that you need it now, and also cut off all your gathering threads. All right. I've cut myself a piece of Solvy. This is Solvy. It's like a paper, as I said. You wash it off and it just comes off. So I'm going to place that at the back of this strip here. All right, and place it under the sewing machine. Now I've got a few stitches here. That's all I've got on my machine. So I'm going to do number 30 to start with. I tend to do this quite randomly. I mean, I don't plan anything. Whoops. I just get on with it. So you can't machine it on or anything. Just hold the Solvy on as you're machining and think of your gathering lines as your train tracks, and you want to keep in the centre of those gathering threads. So you need to keep the foot in the centre of the two gathering stitches. So there's the first one done. You can't see it very easily, can you? But that doesn't matter because we know it's there. It's along there. So I'm now going to do something a little bit more dense, which is number 41 along the bottom. Okay. So here we are. Here's my piece of smocking, which I'm really happy with. Isn't that great? Now the next thing that has to be done is I have to wash off the Solvy from the back of this before I can machine it on the top piece. Now I'm not going to show you how to make the whole dress because you will have the instructions. If you have the pattern, you have the instructions to make the dress. So I'm only interested in helping you to get by with the smocking. All right, so I'm going to give this a wash and then I'll be back. So I've now washed this, and as you can see, it's nice and floppy again, and all the paper has dissolved. All right, this is called Solvy that I used, but I will put the information for you in the descriptions below and anything you may need to buy to make this. Okay, so I'm really happy with this. Can you see? Yeah, it looks like smocking, doesn't it? Yes, I think it's great. So now this I have to now machine onto the bodice. So you've got your seam allowance each side of this smocking. So one of them, the seam allowances, has to be attached to the bottom of the bodice, and the other one has to be machined. Other side is obviously goes to the top of the skirt like this. Which I will do soon. I have done a sleeve for you. The sleeve has been done in the same way. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of gathering, and it measures, what I have done is I have measured 6 inches each side. I've gathered it up before I did the smocking to 6 inches each side of the sleeve. Now the sleeve, you will find on the pattern, does have a central part at the bottom here, a centre. So make sure you pin that or mark that for your halfway for your gathering around here. So 6 inches, 6 inches each side of that notch that tells you that's halfway. Okay, I've used Solvy inside here, and I've put it over the edge, over the free arm, sorry, on the sewing machine to do this. All right, now first of all, the first thing I did was I turned up the bottom with a narrow hem. I did first of all try and do a narrow hem by folding it over, but you know, it's such a steep curve on here, it just became very difficult. So all I did was overlocked it, and I've turned it up once. not my preferred way, you know, when you're going to see, but I'm sure it'll be fine. No one's going to look that hard at that piece. Okay, so what else do I need to tell you? I've sewn the skirt together. All right, I've sewn that and I've put the gathering around the top, which is obviously what you have to attach to one side of the smocking. I have put, although this pattern doesn't have pockets in it, I have put pockets in mine because I like pockets in my dresses and skirts, which I don't really wear very much, skirts. But anyway, so I think that's all I need to tell you. So I've done 5 rows of gathering on here, and that means I've done 4 rows of decorative stitching. So I'm going to get on and finish this. Now, if there's anything you'd like to ask me, then please ask me any questions you have. I'm really, really happy to answer anything for you. I'm just going to finish off the dress and then I will show you in a minute. So here I am. Dress is finished and I'm very happy with it. There's just one thing I need to mention to you. I said to do this 12 inches, the gathering right the way round, and don't forget there's a central part there, so 6 inches each side. But the embroidery has shrunk, okay? So if I was doing this again, I would measure it 14 inches, but you must measure your own arm and see what you're comfortable with. Okay, so there we go, dress is finished. I haven't made it terribly long because I did do it long but then decided it didn't look right really long, but it is still quite long. Okay, so that's all from me for now. I hope you understood, and if you need any help, you know you can contact me. I'm always happy to help anybody. I will be back once a week. As I said, I've got my classes back now, but I'll still be back once a week. And next week, I'm going to go through everything I've made with McCalls 7969. All the hacks I've done, all the dresses I've made. I'm going to show you everything and a very brief description of how I did it. I have already done one on the tops for McCalls 7969, so take a look at that. But I will be back with this on a rail to show you. And then when I've done that one, the week after, I'm going to do something completely different. All you people that have got lavender in the garden, I'm going to show you how to make some simple lavender bags with free embroidery. So be prepared for that. I'm gonna prepare it, and it's simple. I will show you a simple way to do some free embroidery with lavender. Okay, bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and press that bell if you don't want to miss anything, and also share with your friends, of course. Bye for now. Bye for now.